Here are my 10 favorite ways to promote webcomics. Hi, my name is Steve Conley. I'm a web cartoonist and have been for a very, very long time. My latest webcomic, The Middle Age, recently passed 13,000 subscribers on Webtoons and is available on Tapas and Go Comics and on my own website and social media and pretty much every place. Part of the success of The Middle Age has to do with how I've promoted it. Now, these are my 10 favorite ways to promote webcomics based on my personal experience. Now, how did I pick my favorite? It's based on a few factors, but effectiveness, cost in terms of time and money, and techniques which don't make me feel too gross. A lot of promotion can feel pretty smarmy, and I don't want to have any part of that. I want to feel good about my webcomic, and I also want to feel good about how I promote it. The point of promotion is to find readers, and hopefully a subset of those readers will become fans, a subset of those fans will become super fans, and a subset of those super fans will become supporters on Patreon or maybe your crowdfunding efforts on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Now, before we get into the top 10, there's one thing that you can do to promote your webcomic above everything else, and that is produce the next episode. The next episode of your webcomic is the best ad for every episode that preceded it. Everything else that's on this list is made better by you producing your next episode. And anything on this list which gets in the way of you producing your next episode is something I would weigh carefully. So, let's get on to the list. Number 10, advertising. Okay, I said I wanted to feel good about the kind of promotion I'm doing, and advertising generally feels pretty smarmy, but advertising works. It's one of the reasons why it still exists and we haven't all banished it to the ninth plane of hell. My general rule of thumb is, for new cartoonists, don't spend more dollars than you have episodes. If you only have 5 episodes, you can only spend $5. If you have 10 episodes, you can spend $10. But keep the budget low, because advertising is something which you can do. It can give you a bump in viewership, maybe send people to your Patreon, maybe send people to your Kickstarter, to some kind of special event or special promotion. But then its value vanishes. Unless you have some way of collecting the information from the people who are responding to those ads, whether it's an email address or something more long-term, that it becomes the first step in a long-term relationship or a connection in some way, and ads value vanishes like that. And some simple tips for advertising: I would say avoid any of the social media sites. They want you to boost your post. Get away from all that. Start with something simple like topwebcomics.com, where for $1 a day you can advertise to an audience of webcomic readers. I can tell from analytics that viewers who come from Top Webcomics read many pages. So they're comic readers, and for $1 a day, try it. If you have 5 episodes, try $5 and see what it does to your analytics. But if you can, direct them to pages where you have an email sign-up form or something. Now, if you're going to advertise there and send people to Webtoons, Webtoons doesn't really give us the ability to embed an email form or something like that on the site. So perhaps instead of directing them to the index of your comic on Webtoons, direct them to a specific episode on Webtoons, because the URL in your ad can go to a specific webcomic. Maybe on that webcomic, you talk about what your webcomic is, who you are, and beg them to subscribe or check out your Patreon or some such. Number 9, link sites. Now, this is where I'm going to sound like a grandfather, because these link sites have kind of fallen out of favor in recent years, especially with the advent of social media. That's how old some of these sites are. But sites like Belfry and Comic Rocket and Top Webcomics, those are index sites that direct comic readers to your website. Now, these sites work a lot better if you've got your own WordPress-based website that have RSS feeds so that you can automatically update your feed on those sites, but they do still have a sizable webcomic readership. Now, these are on the list because they're free and they're effective. So they're not super effective, but still free and effective is a pretty good combination. And I can credit Top Webcomics for regularly sending readers my way each month, so can't really complain. Number 8, social media. Social media barely edges out the old school link sites I talked about a minute ago, mostly because social media is losing its helpfulness. Social media, at a time when Facebook and Twitter were growing their audiences, functioned much more outwardly. It was a lot easier to get those sites and their algorithms to treat an outbound link to our comic strip or our website or our, YouTube channel much more favorably. So if I'm down on social media, why are they on this list? Well, because of Reddit and hashtag events. Reddit still functions like a social media site should. It sends outbound links, even though it kind of penalizes them a little bit. But if you upload your webcomic to Reddit, people who you do not know will see it. The whole point of social media is to reach outside your existing network of friends and family. And Reddit lets you do that, specifically the subreddits of our comics and our webcomics. And then there's hashtag events. Hashtag events, probably the most popular one being Inktober, are great for social media in that the use of those hashtags and the popularity of those hashtags kind of help us break down the walls that Twitter have put around our little communities there. So not as effective as they used to be because, again, these walls are getting stronger and stronger and taller, but hashtag events still can be really helpful on Instagram and on Twitter. Number 7, events. Now, these include Comic-Cons, book signings, festivals, appearances, things like that. Now, this recommendation is largely based on the pre-COVID world, and I'm hoping that these events come back in the future. But even the online events that are taking place in lieu of the real-world events can be really effective places to promote your work to a different audience. My main recommendation here is to take part in low-cost or free local events. Just like advertising, you don't want to spend too much money, especially if you don't have that deep a archive of your webcomics, and the direct benefits of an event kind of evaporate the moment the event is over. So the key at these events is to make them the beginning of new relationships, and a lot of the other promotional tips on this list will help in fostering those future relationships. Number 6, postcards. Okay, now this is where everyone who's online and exclusively online is totally rolling their eyes at me into this old school dead tree technique of getting people to take a look at my silly webcomic. But it works. In my experience, it works. I know. I want to get out of paper. I'm mailing out a Kickstarter right now, and the whole idea that these things weigh anything and I have to lift them with my weak cartoonist muscles kills me. But these things are effective. This is my postcard. I'll put it up on the screen. It'll be easier to see. But it's got a nice piece of art, if I say so myself, on one side, and then it's got the first episode of my webcomic on the other side. I hand this to somebody. They can start reading the webcomic right then and there. Links and doobly-doo at the bottom. I love these. I use these all the time. If I go to a convention, I leave a stack of these outside. If there's a food court at the convention or the event, I leave a few on each table. I know I'm littering. I know. But it's effective. And as someone who has trouble talking with people in real world events, I kind of do okay with this camera in my studio where I'm still by myself and kind of sheltered. But in the real world, where I can just hand someone who might be just as shy as I am, I can just hand them this and say, here's my comic if you'd like to start reading it. And that's it. And they can decide then and there. Maybe they get a chuckle and maybe they'll read more. I can't tell you how great this is as an icebreaker and how great it is to include in everything I mail out. So I can't say enough good things about these. They're super inexpensive to make, pennies a piece, and I've used them for years, and I would attribute a lot of my promotional success to these. We're halfway through our list, and so I'd like to take a moment here to ask you to please consider subscribing to this channel and ringing the notification bell. That way I'll know to make more videos like this one, and if there's a particular topic, one of these 10 that you'd like me to take a deeper dive into, let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching, and let's get on with the list. Number 5, crowdfunding. Now for crowdfunding, I'm specifically talking about Kickstarter. This can feel a little bit like putting the cart before the horse. Shouldn't you already have a massive network of followers before you start your Kickstarter or your Patreon special offer or your Indiegogo? Maybe. But I don't want to undercut the value of Kickstarter as a way to bring people to your website. My Kickstarters are print collections of my webcomic. So if someone wants to read my webcomic for free, they can visit my website. But if they want the printed edition, which is kind of the high-res Blu-ray IMAX edition of the webcomic, it's going to cost them a little something. So I make sure at the beginning of my Kickstarter to include a link to my website. Please read the comic, and if you like it, consider supporting the book. And I'm amazed that during the campaign how many people visit my website. Now, if you're thinking you don't have enough material yet of your comic to do a Kickstarter, well, that's a good reason not to do one. Once you have enough material for your first Kickstarter, maybe a 30-page collection or a 40-page collection that you can do with a print on demand through Kablam or KDP or Kindle Direct Press, I think you're going to notice a big spike in traffic. Number 4, mailing lists. The great thing about mailing lists and newsletters, and why I've been a proponent of them for 25 years and been beating this drum for 25 years, is that those mailing lists are direct connections with your readers. That email list that's collected organically, naturally, over the years is a list of people who've said, Here's my information. Please reach out to me when you're doing something new. I want you to keep in touch. That is magical. That is amazing. And the beautiful thing about it is it's direct. When I send an email to my mailing list, it's a direct connection between me and the user. That relationship is one-to-one. And it's amazing. They can reply, and it's a connection, and it's so much realer than social media and so much more important than social media. So if you're going to do a convention or an event or a book signing, bring a sign-up sheet. On your website, if you've got a website, add a mailing list form. MailerLite is the company I use. The mailing list is the most important long-term promotional thing that you can build, apart from the library of your webcomic. Number 3, publish everywhere. Everywhere you can. If there's an opportunity to get your comic on another website, put it on there. Don't rely on just Webtoons. Try Tapas. Maybe you'll find an audience there. Try GoComics. See if the editors there will pick you up and add you to their library. There's tons of hosts for webcomics. Upload them to social media. Upload them to Reddit. Upload them everywhere. I have always felt that the only good reason not to read my comic is that you just don't like it. Everywhere you look, my webcomic should be there. And if you don't want to read it, don't read it. But it shouldn't be because you can't find it. And a great reason to have your work everywhere is that occasionally hosts will screw up. They might lose a massive audience because they change their terms of service, or because they suddenly prohibit a certain kind of content, or because they fall out of favor. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody with a huge MySpace following for their webcomic, but you have to keep looking for the next place that everyone's going to be and put your stuff there, all the while funneling them back to you and that mailing list so you can maintain the connection. So even if Facebook goes the way of Friendster, you can still maintain these relationships. Number 2, invest in your comic. This is a trickier one because it's going to involve spending some money, but it is important because when you invest in your comic, you make it better and you make it easier to promote, and the investment itself can be a promotion. Make your comic better by employing an editor or a colorist or a letterer or a color flatter to save you time so you can spend more time doing the next episode. The things you do that invest in your webcomic that make it better, make it easier to promote, and make all the other promotional techniques on this list more effective. And bringing on a guest artist suddenly, where you can suddenly appeal to their whole audience. I can't imagine a better way of promoting your webcomic. I did this in the comic book world back in the 90s. I was doing Astounding Space Thrills, my original webcomic, and I was doing a print comic version as well. Now these covers are phenomenal. Drew Struzan is the artist you've seen on Indiana Jones posters and Star Wars posters. The Hildebrandt brothers did that original Star Wars poster with Luke holding a saber above his head. Now those covers cost me, but they have been paying for themselves ever since. People see those covers and they are knocked out. If there's an artist out there whose work you like and you can afford to hire them, have them do a piece of spot art, the cover of your next collection, artwork for your website, your logo, anything. If you do that, it's unlike an ad. Because again, you run an ad and the value goes away. You go to an event and the value goes away when the show ends. Investing in your product, investing in your webcomic is value that it keeps, and that value persists. And it has the upside of creating more art in the world. You're hiring an artist whose work you love to create more art of characters of yours. And I look back on those images that those great artists created, and they still make me happy. So even on days where it's not helping me sell more books, it's making me so happy. So I really recommend that. That goes back to what we were saying before. Effective. The cost was an issue with those, but in terms of joy and how good I feel about them, immeasurable. So I could have spent an equivalent amount of money that cost for that cover on advertising, and no one would care. That ad value would be gone. That cover got me more directly, indirectly, and forever. So that's why it's number 2, because if you do this right, if you invest properly in your work and make it better and add value to your work, that value persists. And it's great. And number 1, fan art. Fan art is the best. And that's why it's number 1 on this list. It's free, it plays to our strengths, and it can send a ton of readers our way. This is great for so many reasons. It's also really simple to do. This is special to me because it really is a love letter to a creator or a creation that you love. If you draw a web cartoonist's character, odds are they're going to share that with their entire audience. I mean, heck, if someone draws Sir Quimp from the Middle Age, I'm sharing that with my entire audience. In the past few years, I've created a number of pieces of fan art, and I love doing it. I love drawing. I love the practice, because we all need practice. I created fan art for Scott Kurtz's PvP, and he ran that as an episode of his webcomic, and readers are still finding me from it a year and a half later. I can't say enough good things about fan art. You should create some. Don't let it get in the way of your webcomic. But if you have any time in between episodes, sketch off a drawing of somebody else's character and send it to that creator. Odds are they're going to share it with their audience and you'll get new readers from it. Costs you nothing. It's great. So these are my 10 favorite ways to promote webcomics. If you have some other ideas, please let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like me to take a deeper dive into any of these, let me know, and maybe they can be a standalone episode in the future. If you'd like to read my webcomic, The Middle Age, it's available on Webtoons, at Tapas, at GoComics, links in the doobly-doo below. And if you'd like to support my webcomic and videos like this one, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon at patreon.com/SteveConley. I can't thank you enough for all the amazing comments, all the new subscribers. You're just all wonderful. I hope no matter where you are in the world that you're safe and well, and I'll see you online.